Good morning. This is the first Sunday of July, and so this will be our Shotsuki service. We will be reading the names of those who have passed in the month of July. So for those of you who have had a loved one who have passed this month, please go to your home altar to burn incense in their memory. If you don't have an altar, you might just sit and keep their memory in your heart. I'll begin the names with those who have passed on most recently. Akitoshi Inoue, Michael Elroy, Yuruko Hagio, Haruko Nagatani, Dr. Y. Miyamoto, Henry Shimada, Naganori Uchiyama, Yoshiko Iwataki, Jack Takeguchi, Hideo Ochi, Chie Ito, En Nishiguchi, Keizo Ida, Tsuneji Suda, Tamio Okano, Jim Doi, Dan Morimoto, Eugene Terada, Christine Shimizu, Kazukiyo Oto, Kurume Doi, Komeno Sakamoto, Sakayo Kawamoto, Tom Itsumi Hayashi, Michiko Koba, Harry Kawamoto, Toshio Hashimoto, Fusako Inoue, Wasa Asaki, Matsu Ito, Torio Ishisaki, Yukie Shiosaki, Yukata Takasugi, Fujino Shimizu, Katsu Tanizaki, Noburo Sakaguchi, Shigeo Yamanishi, Hideo Suenaga, Toshitaro Yamashita, Kingo Ouchi, Chie Kyutoku, Zennichi Ogawa, Kosaburo Ishino, Sanroku Kawasaki, Kijiro Kinoshita, Kichinaga Iwasaki, Masakazu Ishizu, Jiro Muraoka, Tari Otomo, Mine Ogata, Sharon Yamaguchi, Chosuke Himaka, Kikujiro Shinoda, Kazue Murakami, Mitsu Iwata, Haru Hayashi, Tsune Hayashi, Hidekichi Doi, Koichi Kawada, Fumino Honda, Takeo Okuma, Kinosuke Tsuneyoshi. Again, those are the people who have passed away in the month of July. Please offer incense in their memory. And if we did not call their names, you might also burn incense in whoever loved one who may have passed away in the month of July. Karen and I were back in San Jose last weekend. We attended our grandson's birthday. Corey is 6 and Jake is 1. My daughter-in-law, Annie, was very smart. She gave birth to both boys on the same date, 5 years apart. So it only takes one birthday with 2 parties. And anyone with kids know how hectic that is. Now, Corey, our 6-year-old, knew that one day he was 5 years old. And then the next day he was 6. Now, we all know that it took a whole year for that to happen. But in his mind, it was just one day when he turned from 5 to 6. Now, that's kind of similar to the 4th of July, which we're celebrating today. We celebrate this day as Independence Day, the day that 13 colonies became the United States of America. We became independent. We were liberated. And yet we realized that it took more than one day. It took several years. In that time, the date we're celebrating as July 4th, we realized that there was a Revolutionary War that went from 1775 to 1783. And then this declaration that was signed took a little bit of time. And then after the war, they had to put together a constitution and sign it. And then they elected a president, George Washington, our first president, who didn't take office until 1789. And yet we celebrate one day, the 4th of July, to symbolize this whole transition, this whole process of going from colonies of the British Empire to an independent country, the United States of America. Now, after that, have we stayed the same? You know, it's been almost 250 years. In that time, some things happened. There was a civil war, and that happened between 1861 and 1865, where the states of the North and the South were fighting to determine whether slaves could be kept as slaves or not. Now, when you think about it, a slave meant that people owned other people like property. And so there was this horrendous war that was fought between the Union and Confederate armies. Fortunately, the Union won, and the United States was preserved. Also in that time, in the 250 years, we grew from 13 states to what I remember as 48 states. And now, as an adult, I see we have 50 states. And so this whole process of the United States of America is a growing situation. It's not static. This is what we call impermanence. Things change. Now, there's a parallel between democracy and also Buddhist principles. So we look at this process. It's not just the result. The 4th of July we're celebrating took many years. And it took many people to have this happen so that we could celebrate this today. It took some leaders, and we see Mount Rushmore with Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, Roosevelt, but also many common people. As I said, during the Civil War, there were about 620,000 soldiers who died within that 4-year period. And that's about the same amount of people who have died from the COVID virus in the last year and a half. But the point I'm making is that it was not only leaders, but ordinary people. There were people like Rosa Parks, a man named Audie Murphy, who was the most decorated soldier of World War II, who later became an actor. Harvey Milk, Jackie Robinson, many common ordinary people. And ordinary people marched into Vietnam during the Vietnam War to have it stopped. There are people who marched in the Women's March and Black Lives Matter, which we realize is also Asian Lives Matter, which we also realize is Blue Lives or Police Lives Matter. All lives matter, because we have in our Metta Sutra, may all beings be happy and well. May no difficulties come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. So what we're looking at is that all lives matter. May all beings be happy and well. And so the point I'm making here is that the one day we celebrate is really a time to look back and really appreciate all the people that made this possible for us. And we might think, was this just to celebrate by going out to a barbecue or getting a great sale on a mattress or a new car? No, it's really to think about all that's happened before. And this is how we celebrate our Shotsuki and also our Obon. We realize that there are so many people who have made this possible for us to hear the Dharma, that they went through so much. For the Buddhist churches of America, we've been here 120 years in America, and so many people have contributed to just our being here, listening to the Dharma. Now, there are parallels between democracy and Buddhist principles. And democracy is not just what the government does, because in a sense, we are the government. We're able to select our leaders and determine, what laws and rules that govern us. It's not like we're in China, Russia, perhaps North Korea, or some other countries where something is determined for us and we just follow what's happening. And it's important for us to realize this so that we can take part and be active. And this is also true in Buddhism. Something happened in 13th century Japan, when before that, Buddhism was mostly for aristocrats, people who could afford to meditate and listen to the teachings. But in the 13th century, there were people like Honen and Shinran, and in Zen, Dogen and Eisai, and Nichiren. And what all these monks did was they brought Buddhism down to the masses, to the ordinary person. And because of this, Shinran's teaching has reached us. And it's taken 800 years and gone from Japan to Hawaii to North America and many other parts of the world. And so again, like democracy, Buddhism is for the people and up to ordinary people. Because the BCA and the Buddhist Temple of San Diego are not just the leadership and ministers, it's about everyone. As a Shin Buddhist minister, I am not a monk. I don't have any higher rank. I am a fellow traveler. And so, like you, it's up to each of us to determine the future. And what the future is about is what we do. Because again, Shotsuki Obon reminds us that we're only here because of the efforts of others. And like Ondok-san, the song that we often sing in the temple, we want to repay the efforts of our teachers. And so we're enjoying the benefits of the work of others. And so let's work together so that others in the future might hear the Dharma. Now, you may hear that sometimes we shouldn't talk about politics. But what's politics? Politics is just people determining how the whole society lives. And let me give you a story that I've told before, that we think of politics sometimes as just being one thing. Well, I was in Mendocino. This is a little seaport town in Northern California, very small town. And I was talking with the shopkeeper. And what he told me was that he used to live in Berkeley. And he got tired of that. He and his wife, felt there were too many protests and too many political things going on. So they moved to Mendocino, where they opened this little store selling little trinkets and things. But he said, in a small town, everything is politics. Everyone has to decide, where the city money goes, whether it's to fix potholes, put up street signs, where the sewer lines go. People decide how the town is run. And in a small town, everyone's involved. In a larger city, we think that it's the government, only the people who are elected or paid by the government. And so you see, sometimes when we say, I hate politics, it's that we are kind of hesitant to get involved because it involves working with other people. I'm reminded of Lucy in Charlie Brown, who says, I love humanity. It's people I can't stand. And we hear this. We hear this even in the temple, where we feel uncomfortable when we have to negotiate and talk about things. But this is what life is about, and this is what Buddhism helps us to learn. It's that we are not just single individuals, but we are together. We are interdependent, and we do have to work with each other. So politics is just how we work with each other to determine how the whole group functions. And we can think that sometimes we work together and sometimes we don't. But the purpose of a temple, like a government, is to determine things for the whole population, for the whole group. I think the difference in Shin Buddhism is that Buddhism is about how we do this, how we work with each other, how we know about ourselves, and how we live in our environment. And to do that, we think about how we got here. And so we think about, again, Shotsuki and Obon, all the people who have determined and worked hard, the efforts of others to have us come here. We have the symbolism of Amida Buddha, light and light. And we say that we are here because of the compassion of Amida Buddha. We can think of that as the efforts of others, things that people have done for us, other things in terms of animals and plants and all the causes and conditions to have us live the life we have today. And so again, as we wake to this reality, we appreciate what we have. And so it's not just up to ministers and leaders to decide what happens in our future. It's up to each of us. Each of us pass on the Dharma. Now, my job as the minister is pretty good. It simply is to be happy. And I'm happy because of the Dharma. The Dharma teaches me how life works. And so part of my job is to help other people be happy. And so what the Sangha members might think of is that it's their job to also be happy, to appreciate the efforts of others. That sounds like a pretty good job. And so what you may have noticed that what we've been doing is having ordinary people share their thoughts and how their lives have been affected by the Shin Dharma. And so last week, Sharon Sasaki gave a Dharma talk. And each month, there have been other people besides myself giving Dharma talks, because it's important that we each share the Dharma and how it affects us. It's not just me giving information about Shin Buddhism, but it is about each of us explaining and sharing the benefits we have in this life on how the Buddha Dharma has helped us. And I encourage you to watch something on Facebook. Katie Sumida posted something called Buddhism in Japan. And it shows a few ministers talking, and the fact that religion seems to be almost invisible in Japan because people live life naturally. But I've often said that I think that Buddhism has influenced the culture of Japan, and it's difficult to point out sometimes because it's so natural. People put the lives of other people first. They're always thinking in terms of the group, the we. It's the me and the we. And this whole thought of thank you or appreciation. And so this little, I think it's about a 10-minute clip on Facebook, if you look it up, will really show you that in Japan, Buddhism is lived out in everyday life. It's not that we have to become Japanese, but there are principles in this that really help us. So to sum up, we're having today the 4th of July, a time to reflect. Not that one day we went from 13 separate colonies to one United States, but we've grown. Things have happened over the 250 period from that time. And we have Shotsuki and Obon, whereas Buddhists, we look back on all the people and things and causes that have brought benefit to our lives. And we realize that it's up to us to go forward and help others hear the Dharma so that they too can be happy. And I mentioned a birthday, the birthday of my grandsons. Now these birthdays, although children really enjoy it and they feel it's their special day, I really think it's the day of the mothers and fathers and everyone else who have made these days possible. And so we have these times to symbolically remember all the things in the past. And we can do this every day, every morning and every evening, every time we say the Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, because what we're doing is reflecting back and realizing that our present position today is due to the efforts of so many others. And we voice the Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, realizing the compassion of Amida Buddha. So please join me in expressing this deep appreciation for life itself and all who have made it possible. Gasho, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu.